everyone, it's Yamina. In today's video I want to talk about the exotical space, mixed things and all that. So for those of us who follow the exotical community online, we know that it's for women of a particular look, but not excluding anyone, because anyone can like listen into the conversation, give in their 2 cents, share, understand, all that good stuff. So predominantly is for light-skinned women who identify as monoracial or MGM or mix. Is for biracial women, mixed women, and they could be any skin tone. And I don't personally use the words unambiguous and ambiguous, but I know what it means. Everybody online knows what it means, but it's predominantly for ambiguous women or women who are mixed, women who identify as black or who do have African DNA and African ancestry. No, African DNA. Now, let's not say ancestry, because ancestry, when you look at the dictionary, is actually referring to the generation beyond your grandparents. And most of us get most of our immediate backgrounds from our grandparents and our parents, maybe a grandparent. Anyway, so we know who the exotical space is for, and we do enjoy having friendships online with people who don't identify with the space, like people that we call allies, and people who get the fact that this space is needed for women who experience being othered in the black community. And like I said, I live in an area that does not have a big black population, and the few places that I go to that do have a few people of color who are of African descent, there's very few, and I don't go often. I actually need to get back into dance class, hopefully this month, if not in January. But there are not a lot of black people. The reason why I was looking for black people online in the first place is because I'm not around any black people. Like, there's people here, and over the years I've made friendships, acquaintanceships with people who are of African descent, who are Caribbean, African American, African, all that good stuff. But they didn't last. Those people have moved away. We lost touch, whatever happened. And so having the community online is super fun, because we get to share stories, share strategies for living, and just listening to each other and hearing each other out. And that's fun, because from what I understand, I think it's been said a few times online that the exotical term, the word itself, was made in an offhand way to kind of like put down women who were considered like the preferences or the desired ones for dating amongst black men. And it was a term that was thrown out for women who were of African descent, but also women who were just not of African descent, but usually like women who fit the slang term of exotical online. So light skin mixed, or dark skin mixed, or monoracial light skin, whichever one the person fits under. So we know where it came from. We know how it started to be. We know that it was originally used as a put down, but women have repurposed it and are embracing it as a term that we use online for the community. And I don't understand why it's an issue, because there's still other spaces for women of African descent online, and of all looks and colors and shapes and all that good stuff. And it's not like a competition. It's not a hierarchy. It's not someone's prettier than someone else, or somebody's gonna get the guy that most of us don't want. Like, that was kind of shady. But it's not about like getting somebody. It's not about who's pretty. It's not about who, because like I told you, I don't practice colorism. Like, to me, everybody's beautiful. But it is super nice to find a space that represents me and makes me feel beautiful and like I'm a part of something, because seeing some of the black spaces online, people were definitely trying to put down people who look like me, people who look similar to me, and I'm just like, that's weird. Like, why are people doing that? Like, just because somebody has a different skin tone or is mixed doesn't mean that you have to say, oh, this person's not pretty, oh, that person's ugly, oh, you don't have super long hair, oh, I don't get it. Like, I find it hard to even discuss like people's features, like phenotypes, features, all that kind of stuff, because obviously there are differences, but at the same time, I've said in a previous video that sometimes people want to talk about someone having features that look more like they're from Europe, even though the person isn't mixed to their knowledge, and that person just happens to have those features. Like, it's not based on being of European descent or European DNA. Like, that person has features and they're a person of color, and their features are either big, they're small, they're medium sized, whatever you want to compare it to. So I find it uncomfortable sometimes to like talk about phenotypes and features, because like some people are mixed and do have features that favor one side of their family over their other side of the family, and some people are not mixed and have features that reflect a completely different race that they're not from, and it has nothing to do with like their makeup, and they just happen to have those features, and people would like to pick it apart if they want to like pick on differences and try to like put you down and say that you're not cute, you're not pretty, you're not this or that, the other. So I just think it's pretty messed up, because in the long run, the exotical space is supposed to be a safe space for women who identify with the talking points, who identify with the community based on like if they realize that their genetics are in line with it and they want to be part of the community, or even people who don't like identify with the genetic side of it, but they want to be a part and listen to the stuff and leave comments that are nice, or leave comments that just like bring up things that they see, things that they might want to point out, but just like leaving comments that are just helping with the YouTube algorithm or whatever, but not like being catty and trying to like put people down for being in an exotical community. And I hope that makes sense. So somebody had brought out that being mixed is not necessarily special, not necessarily, doesn't necessarily make you beautiful, and it doesn't like, the whole point is there's always going to be mixed people, there's always going to be monoracial people, and that's whether they are African, European, Asian, indigenous, and Latinos are in a different category because they have different ethnicities within their Latin heritage, but like African, Asian, European, and indigenous people, there's always going to be monoracials among them. Latinos are always going to have their makeup going on as well. And monoracial people are always going to exist. Mixed people are always going to exist, because God did not put a stipulation on interracial marriage and dating and having children. The only time that existed was before Jesus came onto this earth. So before Jesus was born, for I don't remember, it was hundreds of years before, the Jews were stipulated to not marry outside of their race, outside of their religion, so that they, and it's both race and religion, they weren't supposed to marry outside of it, because God, Jehovah, wanted to make sure that his son came through a line of people who were pure and who were his worshipers, who were his faithful worshipers. And if you know the Bible, you know how that went. But Jesus was born on earth after coming from heaven, and now he's back in heaven. Anyway, this is not a Bible lesson. So that was the only time in particular that God stipulated that people had to keep interracial marriage and all that stuff separated. But that's not a stipulation now. And even in my religion, like, It is super common for people to be interracially married. It is super common, but it's also very common for people to be married to someone of their same race. It's literally not an issue. Like, it happens. Like, Jehovah's Witnesses, like, there's a lot of intermarrying, there's a lot of not intermarrying. It just really depends on the individual. It also depends on your like where you live. Um, there's some missionaries who have married in the place that they live in, that they've gone to, and there's some people that get married before they become missionaries, and it really just depends. So yeah, so interracial marriage is like something that I've always been cool with, even before I started practicing my religion again. And it's always going to be a thing because God never put a rule about it. The only people that like to put rules about stuff like that are people from specific communities, specific family members. They don't like it all the time. But interracial marriage is, there's no law against it. Thankfully not anymore because of the loving case that happened. I forget which year it happened, but I saw that movie. But yeah, thankfully interracial marriage is something that's totally fine by God, and like the only ones that make it an issue are people who don't like interracial marriage or don't believe in it. And like the terminology that people use online for like what I just consider interracial dating and interracial marriage, I don't really understand the concept. I don't care to understand the concepts of what other people are talking about when it comes to that. I just call it interracial dating and marriage. So, and I don't even worry about the rest of it. So yeah, people are always going to exist that either are mixed or who are not mixed, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's beautiful, and everybody is going to be more beautiful to someone else than the next person. Like, there's always going to be someone who's prettier, smarter, faster, stronger, than somebody else, and we don't have to make it into a competition. I just know, like, when I see someone who's good looking, I see someone who's good looking. If I see someone who's less good looking, I see someone less good looking. But I'm not gonna like go about rating people because that's not my. I don't do that. Like, I can recognize when somebody's beautiful and someone's cute and someone's less attractive, whatever. But I don't live my life wanting to compare people all the time. It's easy to see and register, but I don't need to like be comparing people to somebody else just because their skin color is different, their hair is different, their body is different. Like, I don't care. Like, somebody is pretty because they're pretty, somebody's cute because they're cute, someone's attractive because they're attractive, someone's less so because that's the case. But like, I just think it's weird that people don't accept that people are going to be mixed and not mixed. So that's the other thing. So that's the other reason why, like, a lot of people that I used to follow on YouTube, I don't follow all the ladies who were part of the black community because yeah, they had a problem with people being mixed, identifying as mixed, identifying as light-skinned black women, thinking people are colorists. And I'm just like, nobody's thinking about most people like that. Like, most people don't care about what somebody else has got going on. And I know I don't, because like I said, I believe in interracial dating, interracial marriage. I believe all black people, African people, whatever, are beautiful because we are. And we're not the only people that exist on this earth, thank goodness, because the world would be boring if we didn't have the diversity that we have. So that's the first thing I was going to say. Okay. The next thing I was going to say is, it would be fascinating to me to like find out who, like, okay. So I was able to find out that I'm multi-generationally mixed, even though I do identify as African American, because my predominant, and this is not going to be my identity video, but my predominant DNA comes from Africa, parts of Africa, and that's obvious, I would think. But I also have DNA that comes from Europe, and then a tiny, tiny bit of indigenous. So all African Americans don't look alike. All African Americans don't have the same family story. Some African Americans have history that their people were enslaved. Some people had a history that their people were free men. Some people have the history that their relatives were emancipated. Some have stories of harm done to women that made the families have mixtures of European ancestry. Some people have family members who married and have children with native people, indigenous people. It literally just depends on the family. There's been stories of love. I've shared that on my channel before. There's I'm gonna say the wrong name, so I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna try to link it in my video. But I did a video about a composer whose family line was from enslaved Africans and European Americans who had families because they were in love with each other, and his family was mixed because of that. So that's not the story of everyone, and that's not, yeah, like everybody doesn't know their story. Everybody doesn't know what they are all the time, especially not African Americans. And thankfully, we're getting to the point where we're able to find out. And I knew when I was growing up, I was always like curious about where I came from. And if anybody tried to ask me where I was from, I'm like, I don't know, I'm African American. Like, duh. Like, why do I have to tell you, being African American, not everybody knows? So, African Americans are a particular ethnicity. And people who are from other countries, whether they're from the Caribbean, whether they're from Africa, whether they're from Europe, Asia, Latin America, like any countries, like people know where they're from, and most of them know like some aspect of their ethnicity, which is super cool. And some people don't, but like most European Americans know their ethnicities. Most indigenous people know their ethnicities. Asian people know their ethnicities. I don't know about Latinos because I would assume, based on the slave trade and the diaspora, the African diaspora, that many people don't always know which countries their people in particular come from, but different people do know, so that's cool. And I wanted to say, it would be cool if every African American can find out, but there are some people who are like very uncomfortable with doing DNA testing, so not everybody's gonna find out. I know I was super interested. I definitely wanted to know. I'll share that in another video. But I want to share some results from other people. So, with, oh, I guess, should I say that? Anyway, so 3 African Americans, biracial people, that I want to share with you with their results. So, and I can say with mine, like I'm 77% African, and I know which countries. So that's me being African American. I'm multi-generationally mixed. And then there's Raven Ellis, who's a YouTuber, and she has almost 2 million, but she has over 1 million YouTube subscribers. And she did a video one time, and before I say the video that she did, she is a light-skinned woman who identifies as black, if I remember correctly. And she was heavily a part of the beauty community at one time, right? And it was when I was getting introduced to the beauty community online, and she was collaborating with a makeup brand, and they were doing a foundation release. They were doing a foundation consultation and a release of shades, and she was light skinned. And there were people online who were like, wait a minute, why are you trying to make a diverse shade range with a light skinned black woman? And she's like the only person of color on this team. And I was like, well, hopefully she does a good job because they need someone in there. So Raven Elise is light skinned, and when I first saw her, I don't know how people perceive me sometimes. I know some people question me about what my background is, but most of the time I'm assuming most people see me as at least a woman of color, as at least somebody who has African DNA. So with Raven Elise, I felt like, I thought she could either be biracial or I thought she could be like me. and it turns out she's multi-generationally mixed as well, but she's like almost half and half because her generations married and had children with people who were mixed, like they were already biracial, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I was so surprised about that, and I just thought that was so cool that she was able to trace her family. So she found out she's multi-generationally mixed, but I think she identifies as black. And she has a YouTube channel. You can check her out. She does DUI, D she does do-it-yourself videos right now for decorating and stuff. Not DUIs. Okay, and then we have Meghan Markle. So I found out about Meghan Markle by chance. I never watched Suits. I've watched 2 or 3 of her movies. And in the one of her movies, her 2 parents playing her parents in the movie were both white. So I was like, oh, okay, this is a pretty European American lady, right? And then Wendy Williams started talking about her, I think in like 2016, 2017, I don't remember, something like 20 teens. Wendy Williams started talking about her, calling her the Black Princess, and I was like, black? What? So then we saw a picture of her mom, and we found out she was biracial. I found out she was biracial because I had no idea. So when I realized that she was actually biracial and she had played a woman who had 2 white parents in the movie, I was like, I wonder whose decision that was. But anyway, so her mom is African American. Their first African ancestor that they was registered in the USA was in 1792, and Meghan Markle found out she had 43% Nigerian DNA. Nigerian DNA. Like, she found a specific country with 43%. My breakdown of Nigeria is 21%. So I was like, wow, that is so cool. So she's African American and she's European American, and she has 43% of one particular country. So I was like, wow, that's cool. With Raven, I don't know how much her percentages are. So there's another lady, Sydney Black, who's African American as well, dark skinned lady with blue eyes, naturally blue eyes, and she did her DNA test a few years ago on YouTube and shared it, and she was 98% Ghanaian. So my whole point in this, talking about this factor, is that African Americans have a lot going on, and we are different from each other even though we are from the same ethnic group. And that's probably the case of some, well, I don't even want to compare African Americans to any other ethnic groups, but we do have different things going on. So I was shocked, I was surprised, I was pleased. I was like, that is really cool. Like, I don't know. Sydney is a very private, quiet lady, a very introverted lady. So I don't know if she like did anything with that information, but it's just really cool to be able to find out what we are, whether we find out that we're mixed, whether we find out that we come from a particular country, whether we find out we come from multiple different countries, which is what I found out. It's just very cool to be able to do that, but also to be able to connect to people online who, even if they did not do their DNA test, they at least know who they are. They know that they're a light-skinned black woman. They know that they're a light-skinned mixed woman. They know that they're a dark-skinned mixed woman. Like, they know who they are. They found this community and they feel a community. So I'm just like, that's what this is about, and that's what I love about it. So I think those are the main things that I wanted to say. Like, there's nothing wrong with being mixed and thinking you're pretty, and there's nothing wrong with being mixed and being confident in yourself, or as confident as you can be, because I don't know how many people go around thinking that they're pretty all the time. Like I said in previous videos, I know that I'm pretty, but at the same time, I am so comfortable in my skin, I literally forget. And for like 2 or 3 years now, people don't even see my face when I'm out in public. People see me online, and people see me when I go to different events or to the Kingdom Hall, but they see me when I go to different events when I take off my hat and I take off my mask. I wear sunglasses, I wear a hat, and I wear a mask when I go outside. People can't see me. And I want to keep it that way because more than anything, I'm around more men. Like, just doing my daily stuff, there's more men around me. And I'm just trying to, like, keep myself a little closed off. So I'm just like, I don't have time to be thinking about, wow, am I pretty? Am I prettier than this woman? Am I prettier than that woman? Who cares? Who cares? I'm just happy that I found a community online that understands, like, we're like, most of us are not the same religion. Some people believe in God, some people don't believe in God, some people believe in different gods. Like, I'm just happy I found a community that believes in treating people who felt othered and look like ourselves, who have a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial experience, multi appreciation even for all those things, even if they're not all of those things. Like, just have an appreciation for people who are have little different experiences from them, or who are just different but the same to them, and who are not going to, like, basically bash them for looking a certain way that does not look like everybody from the communities, the wider communities that they come from. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so even though the exotical space is predominantly for women of African descent, we know that there's also women who were part of that, lumped into being exoticals, who are not of African descent. And if those ladies want to come in and talk, they could talk too. But yeah, this is not a club to be keeping out people who are not mixed, people who are dark skinned, who are, it's not a club to keep anybody out. It's a community online. We found each other. We're happy here. And we are not trying to be weird to other people. We're not trying to say that anybody else is not pretty. We're not trying to say anything like that. I'm just super happy. Like, I'm an older lady, but I am super happy to find the community, and I'm just like, just try to be nice. It's not a competition. It's not any way for us to, like, we're not trying to show ourselves to be better than anyone. We are just finding a space online that makes us feel